what I want to say. The power, like the whole power to the collective, the power of looking through every lens. Do you know what the benefit of that is? The benefit is that you can check off things that don't make sense as well.
Well,
So
I
while
say eliminate the bullshit.
yes, exactly. I don't even know if I believe this story about
Sorry.
Thomas Edison or right. He invented the light bulb. He's like, he tried like whatever, 10,000 ways. And then he had like the most stoic quote ever. He's like, well, I found 9,999 ways to not make one. And it's like, it's kind of corny, but it's like, damn, that's a great perspective to have. And so, we went through like one of the things that I went through was, okay, who's outside the box as far as could it have been a welder? And then I looked into the whole ritual thing. Thank you, Don. Yes, I have that on the next slide. And we went through the ritual thing. We went through WITSEC. We went through PSYOP. We went through everything. And then you know what's so weird, Phoenix? It almost seems like it's a little bit of everything. And I'm gonna get to that. So without further ado, and Phoenix, you can answer these questions as well when you're up here. I think it'd be fun for the guests to answer it too. But this question of the day from the Discord thread comes from Cat's Mojo. Why did you enter the world of true crime sleuthing, and how do you juggle editing, posting with a full-time job, business, lovely wife, and dog? And I would say that entering the world of true crime sleuthing and going all in on that, I'm not going to say it was an accident, because I've told the story about how I got banned from the computers in high school because I was looking up 9/11 inside job, and the school officer came and removed me from our study hall, and I got lost all my computer privileges. And so I've been this way my whole life, where I've always looked into stuff. The official story, and I also had somebody ask me how I got the name Birdie. I know we have some newer folks in the hive, so I'll explain that too. I have a liquor company called Birdie Bombs. If you've never heard of it, it looks like a box of golf balls, but instead of golf balls on the insides, it's shots of liquor. So if you golf, you know that everybody calls it birdie juice or swing sauce, aiming fluid, whatever you want to say. They got a name for drinks on the course. So my company is called Birdie Bombs. Launched that during COVID, and I've been doing that. Well, on my personal TikTok page, before, Birdie was a thing, I was watching the Gabby Petito Brian Laundrie thing and the American Murder Mystery on Netflix. I posted a quick hot take about how I don't think Brian was ever at home. And I think that was all his parents had planned that with a lawyer, and he had 11 days on the run. If you guys remember the scene where the cops walk up to the Laundrie family residence, where the van's in the driveway, and the cops like, is Brian here? And they're like, no, we're not going to talk to you. We want a lawyer. So I posted that, and I'm like, oh shit, I posted that to my business TikTok. Mrs. Birdie, I have to give her credit, because she said, well, why don't you leave it up there? Because it had like 5,000 views. And she's like, maybe somebody's going to be like, well, what's Birdie Bombs? And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's, maybe it's like, guerrilla marketing, right? And I went to bed and I woke up and it had like 2.1 million views the next morning, and it got all the way up to like 9 million views. So I just thought, okay, well, I'm going to just convert that business profile, because there wasn't many followers on that, and I'll just make that mine. And that's where the name Birdie comes from. So instead of Birdie Bombs, it became Birdie. And I just started posting pretty much everything that I've said in the past to my friends and family onto the internet. And I've met incredible people along the way. Now we are here with the hive, and I couldn't be happier on how it all worked out. And I think it's always way more fun when things in life happen kind of unexpectedly, and you just kind of lean into it, and it ends up being such a fun ride. Now, how do I juggle editing and posting with a full-time job, business, lovely wife, and dog? Well, I couldn't do it without Mrs. Birdie, and I'm not just saying that to be corny. She is the MVP behind the scenes. She set up our website. Her and Dawn are in the Discord. It's Dawn mainly doing the Discord, but Mrs. Birdie's a mod on all of the channels. Mrs. Birdie responds to comments and emails when I'm not able to, if I'm traveling for work. And then same thing with my liquor company. She's always there helping me with the tastings and the events that we put on and we do. So the simple answer is, how do I juggle editing and posting with all that other stuff? Is I have an incredible wife who believes in me and supports me. So that's the secret sauce. Phoenix, how would you answer that?
Oh my gosh. Mine's boring, but I got out of the military, moved back to North Carolina, and enrolled in nursing school. And so I was busy during the day and I needed to find some income because books and it's not cheap, especially when you're a non-traditional student and you have three kids. So, full-time student, I went to go work at Blockbuster, if you guys remember those little stores.
Blockbuster was awesome.
I loved it. I got to see all the movies. We had to preview them all and give out recommendations. But anyways, this guy walked in and we started talking, older gentleman, and I just happened to ask him, "What do you do?" He said, "I'm a private investigator." I said, "No way." And so he said, "I'm looking for somebody part-time at night. Are you interested?" And I said, "Of course, if I could get out of this Blockbuster job and work something different, I would do it." So, this is back in the day. He hired me at like $10 an hour. I thought it was like the bomb, right? And so he has me surveillancing with him insurance fraud. And so that includes obviously workman's comp and insurance claims and stuff like that. He said, "How good at the computer are you?" I said, "Well, that's what I went to study. And, I've got some background in the military." He's like, "What? You never told me that." And so he's like, "How good are you on the computer finding people?" I said, "Let me show you."
Yeah. So was it a
So,
hobby while you worked at Blockbuster to kind of dig into
no,
stuff?
I got to stop working at Blockbuster
Oh,
and I
nice.
got to work from home and then I didn't have to be away from home at night. So he used my resources in the computer and back in the day when I was in high school I did a little bit of programming and stuff here and there. So he told me, "Look, I'm going to teach you how to do skip trace. Find these people and we'll cut some deals." I was making more money working with him than I was at Blockbuster. It was a no-brainer.
Wow.
So, eventually I had my own personal loss. I had a missing child. It was a parental abduction, and I put all my skills to work and started helping other people. Then I became an advocate. I worked with some police departments because my ex-husband was a sheriff, and I took that hobby and I never really actually applied for my PI license until I moved to Arizona, hence Phoenix. And some people really screwed that up for me to where I pulled my license. So I am not licensed in the state of Arizona. There are some states where you do not need a license and to practice and to do sleuthing or private investigating. I do work from time to time with some local detectives on some cases, and I'm just moving along. I think I have a lot of experience to share, and that's how I got into it. And I had an adult missing daughter, which she was returned.
Well,
So,
that's cool.
yeah, absolutely. How do you juggle editing, posting with a full-time job? Well, I don't work full time. This is not my business. This is just something I do to help other people. But sometimes I do find cases I'm passionate about, especially this one, because they say ASD and I'm like, "What? What?" I can relate it to my own son and I'm like, "This has got to be wrong."
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of everything, like you said. And I do
Mhm.
have a wonderful husband and some adult children. And I do have a service dog. His name is Denali, and he's an Australian Shepherd.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the questions of the day are going to be awesome. They're fun. They're a good conversation starter, and it is interesting to see what people are curious about. And Phoenix, I think too. Let me just tell the hive real quick, and I'll move on. When Phoenix says that that private investigator was like, "Are you good on the computer?" and she goes, "Let me show you." I can't tell you the number of streams since I've met Phoenix where by the time I get done streaming, I have 2 or 3 emails about what we were just talking about, and these people are fully dug into. Okay, so she is extremely talented at that and quick and fast, and it's whatever access she has is very accurate. So to move on, and thank you for the question of the day. Like I said, you can submit those in the Discord thread. Dawn just made a new thread for that. So um, just go on and submit the question. Anything goes within reason. Um, and yeah, we'll pick one each stream. Now, I know this slide is from yesterday. I'm doing this as a refresher. Okay. So I don't see a situation where the Idaho 4 case, and this is just my opinion, I don't see how the Idaho 4 murders happen without some sort of drug or fraud or something went bad with a network of people that aren't afraid to make you pay if you mess with them. In my genuine, honest opinion, I don't think that I'm not going to say that college kids aren't capable of doing it, because they could have been the college kids that did it. But I'm saying I don't believe that somebody just out of the blue would commit that violent and heinous of a crime and then also have the craziest court case ever follow it. I think it would be closed and shut if it really just was a college kid or Brian Koberger that just snapped, murdered them. It wouldn't be a 3-year case with all these wild sealing and redactions. I've said that. So I have a relatively heavy video clip stream prepared for everybody today, but I just wanted to touch base on this to kind of get everybody's mind, kind of all on the same page here. This was an interesting video that I watched last night before bed. It's called How to Spot a PSYOP. Now, we're not going to watch the whole thing. I'm going to fast forward to 1 or 2 parts, but this guy talks about the top 4 or 5 things that you need to look for. While they're very obvious to people like us, I want you to think about people in your life who they couldn't spot a PSYOP if their life depended on it. You know what I mean? So go ahead, Phoenix.
No, I was just laughing
Oh, yeah.
because I have people in my own family that are like awake, right? That are like, wait, something doesn't sit right. But then I have someone that says, huh? What do you mean?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna copy this. I'm gonna get it up in a different browser so I can make it bigger. All right, let's see here. Oops, I don't want that one. Here we go. I'm gonna kind of fast forward through it. Let me just make sure I find the right part. So this is by Son of Hutch. Posted this.
So here's how to spot a PSYOP. And I've never said this publicly before, but here is the step-by-step formula that will enable you to spot a psychological operation. Separating manipulation from genuine news is like kind of playing detective. So here's a few steps that will put you on top of everybody for being able to spot a PSYOP. Number 1 is analyze the source. Is the outlet known for credible reporting?
I already disagree with this part with the 2 that he's about to say, but his point is good.
Or do they thrive in like sensationalism? So established outlets like Reuters, sometimes Wall Street Journal, they report facts first, and others are way into drama. And PSYOPs, psychological operations, extremely, very much rely on sensational headlines. If you see sensational headlines, you need to get the hell out. This is on all media, on both sides of the aisle. There is no aisle if you hadn't got that figured out already.
Love that part.
So next is who owns that platform that you're looking at. So media ties with pharmaceutical companies, political entities, defense contractors. I dare you to look that one up tonight. And so step 2, question the timing. So you want to ask yourself, does the story that I'm looking at right now appear during a major crisis or scandal or upcoming election maybe? PSYOPs will very often distract from bigger issues like UFO footage released during major policy debates or global unrest. Huge red flag. Next is to follow the narrative. And I promise you don't have to go do 5 hours of research to do it. You just ask yourself, are multiple outlets, this one question right here, are multiple outlets parroting the exact same language? If you see that shit going down, you need to be very terrified that something's going into your brain that doesn't belong there. So PSYOPs use coordinated messaging to reinforce a narrative. So look for phrases that feel copy and pasted, like unprecedented threat or undeniable evidence. Those little phrases, you're going to hear them. You will start to hear these everywhere you look. And the moment you hear copy paste phrases, that is a PSYOP. So step 4, look for emotional triggers. So all PSYOPs thrive on pushing your buttons. Think about the FATE model, if you know what that is: focus, authority, tribe, and emotion. So this is fear, anger, amazement. So if a story feels like it's designed, and I say the word designed with bold, underline, italics, if a story feels like it's designed to make you react emotionally, get out as fast, but don't even finish the story. Ask ChatGPT about what you're trying to figure out. So stories about UFOs that emphasize unknown threats without any evidence, you should be pretty careful about that. And then just check the evidence. You ask yourself the question, are they providing evidence like document data, eyewitness accounts, or relying on anonymous sources and some vague claims? So if you ever hear the words, and I want you to burn these words into your head, I've never told anyone in my life how to expose a PSYOP. But if you do all of these at once, you will never be manipulated. This one question. With that stuff going on, I need to ask, is this going to expand government control or justify new laws? That one question.
Yep.
Well, what I'm saying, expand government control or justify new laws. Okay. Analyze coverage patterns. So PSYOPs all the time dominate the news cycle and they drown out other stories. Real news coexists with other reports. Let me say that again. Real news coexists with other reports about stuff that's going on. If one topic is everywhere, while major global events get completely ignored, you're in the middle of a PSYOP. Next is look for follow-ups. This is it.
Yep.
Real news evolves with new updates. Real news evolves with new updates. PSYOPs fade once they've served their purpose. I'll say that one more time if you're taking notes. PSYOPs will fade away when they have served their purpose.
Now, Hive, how many boxes can we check with that?
How many boxes do we have?
Yeah, exactly. Quite a few. And so that I just wanted to play that to kind of start what we're about to talk about. Now, this interview, somebody actually just screen recorded a little bit, and that's right, Doms. Go Brewers. Go Crew. That's awesome.
Boop, boop.
Yep. Now, this interview is just freaking mind-blowing, and I'm playing these couple clips before the meat and the bones video that I'm going to get to. That is probably the video that whatever the highest recommendation is for like make an hour and go watch this today at some point is coming up. So let's get through these and let's break these down. But this is just, I don't even know what to say about this interview. Also, look at Steve's face here.
I know.
Was sexually motivated. I don't care what Thompson said. They've got a plan for him. They've got a job role for that man. And it's not every day that you get somebody who wants to be a police officer, is dying to be a police officer, is literally talking to them every single day about how he was going to be a police officer. It's not every day you get a master's degree in criminology that is going to go into prison. And they're going to leverage that. That's what they're interested in. They're not interested in him being locked up in a 23 hours of, solitaire where he's not going to be able to have any influence. They want him to go in there and actually have influence and work with them.
And
that is narrative planting. That is narrative planting to a T. You have a victim's parent telling you the cops are going to use him. Think of how insane that is.
What if they were already using him?
That's what I'm saying. He's making it seem like after the fact, but that's probably what was happening. I want you guys to listen to that again.
Influence. They want him to go in there and actually have influence and work with them.
and be a resource for crime fighting in the future?
Yeah.
That's what we've been saying.
His fantasy was to be an officer, or the earliest one was like a Green Beret or something like that, a Ranger. So this guy's had like these grandeur visions of himself since he was just a little kid. And I think one of the first things he told the officers when they arrested him in Pennsylvania was like, let's.
Also, I don't know what little kid doesn't go through phases of saying like, oh, I want to be a soldier, or I want to be a firefighter, or oh, I want to be this, I want to be in the NFL, I want to do that. That's normal. How would Steve know that about him? It's just odd. And there's only a couple seconds left of this, so I'll let it play.
Get a cup of coffee. I'm working on my criminology PhD, and I'd like to interview you. It's like, this guy wants to be a cop or wants to be somebody of importance. He always has been, and that was part of the reason why we were trying to get them to take that into account and not plead with him. Don't give him the position of power. Basically, dictate the terms to him and say we're not going to accept this unless you prove who you are.
Still fascinated.
What did
What are your
Steve
thoughts on that?
G? What did he mean by always has been? He's been important. He wants to be an importance and always has been.
Which is
What does he
interesting.
mean by that? Did he get caught? Was he being investigated?
No.
What is going on?
Phoenix, the more and more that I start thinking about this, I don't think there's as much of this mystery around Brian Koberger as everybody thinks. I think it's
No,
very
I'm talking
straightforward.
about Steve G. Who is Steve G? He's been able to speak all around this gag order.
Oh,
Why
right.
is he the only one?
F-E-D is, I think, how you spell it.
D-E-A.
Yeah. Some three-letter thing. Because, guys, you go back to the part where he's like, right here.
Prison, and they're going to leverage that. That's what they're interested in. They're not interested in him being locked up in 23 hours of solitaire where he's not going to be able to have any influence. They want him to go in there and actually have influence and work with them.
So now I'll put my, hang on, here we go.
Please retrieve your nearest tinfoil hat. Place hat firmly on your head. Prepare yourself.
All right. There's been people in the Hive that have talked about how Brian being in jail will really be the one that's like investigating all of this shit going on from behind bars. Now, again, that's why I put my tinfoil hat on, because I think that's a shitload of work to go through to get him behind bars. But if he's going to be infiltrating that, he's got to have credibility. Now, people are going to be like, well, he would get killed because I don't know if it's because of the serial killer thing or whatever hype it is, but I think that a lot of people probably behind bars, they probably have a better perception and ability to filter through the noise of the media. Maybe because they're not exposed to it. Maybe because people on the inside know what's going down. Maybe people on the inside have already said, no, this was a hit. They're framing him. Who knows? But the fact that a victim's father is going on and saying that they're going to utilize him, they want to let him have influence on the inside. They wanted to make sure he's not locked up for 23 hours a day. Again, my spidey senses go off. God forbid anybody is ever in that position of losing a daughter. I just don't find the reason for going on Ashley Banfield every other freaking week or couple weeks and just muddying the waters. And if anything, coming off in a way that seems very like not an average citizen type of language that he's using. Like and this is not like, oh, I got a private investigator that's telling me to say this. Oh, I got a lawyer that's telling me to say this. No, I just don't think that Steve talks like a civilian. I think he talks like a Fed.
He has from the beginning. You pointed that,
Yeah.
you called that out. And it is. He talks like, how does he know all this information? We knew that before the police did. We knew this, and that makes me think that he is either that three-letter agency, because his PI didn't get that information first.
No. And so I just wanted to show that part. Okay. If I let a lot of people know about very good content that other creators put out. To put it simply, this is the best Idaho Vor video I've seen ever. This is by True Crime Design. It dropped yesterday. It's an hour long. When I tell you that this is a must watch, this is a must watch.
This video should be viral already.
Yes. This is the most incredible piecing together. I don't know how long this video took them to make, but True Crime Design, you hit it out of the park. Great work on this. Absolutely incredible video. This is a must watch. There's information that I was not aware of, or I should frame it this way. There's information that I knew about in general, but how it applies to this case. Whew. Chat, type a 1 if you've watched this.
I'll just
I'm
say
just
one.
curious. Yeah. I mean, because you guys get the point. It's amazing. And it's just, it's insane. So yeah, there's a lot of people in here that have watched it.
I will say that I have been scouring iCourt to see if there has been any secret arrest. There's some funky stuff going on in there.
Yeah. What the fuck? Get real McCoy out of here. So anyways, thank you, Donna, for the super chat. I appreciate that. The summary of this video is essentially tying how nobody in this case is talking. And it goes into the history of like the mob and how I believe like the Sicilian word was Omerta. And it means, you're bound by silence or death. And I'm going to play a little bit of this. There's some clips of it. So here we go. Oops. Let me play this. Hive, type a 1 if you're cool with watching a couple minutes of this. I'm not going to play the whole thing. It's an hour, but there's just some key parts because I need to give context for the next slide in the video, because when I saw this,
Yeah, we need to make this viral so people understand more.
yes, go comment on it, go share it, get this thing into the algorithm, and it's crazy. So, all right.
Omerta is a Sicilian term for a code of silence, honor, and non-cooperation with authorities, particularly in the context of organized crime.
I don't know nothing about that.
You need to go no further, just say nothing else. This is what I'm telling you, what I'm exposing to you and the press and everybody. This is my doom.
Omerta is a piece of shit if you don't agree to it. If you don't agree to it, it's nothing.
Okay, but what is it supposed to be?
It's supposed to be silence.
What are we told? We're told that no matter what happens in that life.
But I said that it's a double-edged sword.
Can't have your own interpretation of Omerta. It is what it is. Omerta is, you never know. I'm not saying, it is what it is. You can't talk, period.
Originating in southern Italy and most commonly associated with the mafia, the concept of Omerta has spread to other organized crime groups, serving as a crucial tool for maintaining secrecy and protecting members from prosecution. Members swear to Omerta, usually involving a secret blood ritual, to become made into a crime family, and it means that they must never inform authorities or rivals about the group's secrets.
When you take that oath, this is what my father's opinion was. Michael, I don't care who betrayed me. I don't care who ratted on me. I don't care how bad the life was. I took an oath, and I couldn't live with myself if I betrayed that oath. I don't care what anybody else did. That's it, and I'll live this way until I die.
Did you do anything for the family at all in this time, or did they just do things for you?
Just go out, kill for them.
You'd go out what?
Kill for them.
The code is so strict that anyone who speaks to police or their families are marked for death and torture. To enforce Omerta, the mafia used fear-based psychological tactics, such as the constant threat of violent retribution to ensure silence. By discouraging dissent and forbidding cooperation, Omerta effectively breeds an us versus them mentality, further binding its members and strengthening the social structure and hierarchy within the group. Criminals operating under the Code of Omerta exploit and leverage family bonds by threatening and targeting the family members of rule breakers. The case of Tommaso Buscetta, a high-ranking mobster who testified against the Sicilian mafia, is an example of this type of intimidation tactic. After mafia hitmen killed his brother, 2 of his sons, and various extended family members and close friends, Buscetta walked away from the criminal organization he'd been part of for nearly all his life. A key informant in the largest mafia trial in history, Buscetta was among the first to break Omerta and explain the mob's inner workings, which led to some 400 convictions. His family was systematically wiped out before he broke Omerta, highlighting the extreme measures taken to enforce the code and punish those who betray it by violently murdering.
Now, Rich Buddy said it's a foolish theory, Italian mob, none of them are Italian. It has nothing to do with Aryans at all. I had the same thought. This video goes in and describes how it has become a hybrid thing, and they show it's just wild. So, Rich, if you haven't watched this video, I would encourage you to give it a watch. Like I said, so you guys get the whole point about what that is, like the bound by silence. But I want to show a couple of things here. I'm going to start clicking around a little bit.
For this atrocity, hence the refusal to acknowledge, let alone investigate or address the underlying causes like drug and human trafficking.
Is human trafficking occurring in Kootenai County? No. Are there people?
Yes, and I know it has nothing to do with the mob. They're talking about the general practice of you're bound by silence or you die. If you're
Hey, Bertie, can you play that back and watch his lips with the sound?
Sure. But I'm going to let this run after this just because it's long.
Of organized criminality, which ultimately is the genesis for this atrocity. Hence the refusal to acknowledge, let alone investigate or address the underlying causes like drug and human trafficking.
Is human trafficking occurring in Kootenai County? No.
I think it's just delayed, Phoenix.
Are there people that live in different parts of this country or this world that are soliciting our teenagers to get naked pictures, sextortion events? That's happening daily, and it's probably happened since we've started this show. That is absolutely. And does that situation put that teenager at risk for being a victim of a crime and human trafficking in the future? You're damn straight it does.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we need to bring that to a community conversation also. Is human trafficking occurring in Kootenai County? No.
Please don't get distracted by the conspiracy theories, and I'll just be perfectly blunt. The nonsense that some people put out there just to stir the pot, that hurts the families all the more. That hurts the community all the more.
That's a dead giveaway to, hey, there's some shit going on. Everybody stop looking into it. We're going to call you conspiracy theorists until we're blue in the face. You saw it with George Bush down on ground zero. You hear it all the time in the media with the COVID shit, with God knows what else. And now don't let these outlandish conspiracy theories. Why would you have to say that? If it's so straightforward, there's no conspiracies.
Well, they don't think that we're going to find out that 2 of those college students' families are involved in the drug trafficking in the area.
So this part of the video explains it. This is interesting.
There's this other thing we were talking about, man. There's I don't know anything about it. It's the first time I ever heard of it, man. A group called Omerta up there.
Oh yeah. They're actually pretty big right now.
And are they Italian? Are they white, Mexicans?
Well, Tony Phelps, Joe Kelly, and Nugget, they started a group in the joint called Omerta, right?
Rich, this is the part.
It was originally a bunch of just white boys, gangster white boys from Snohomish County, which is north of, about 30 minutes north of Seattle, right? So it kind of just started off as like a little clique, a bunch of boys from, you know, the 425, the Everett, Snohomish County area, you know, and then it kind of around 2011 is when I started to notice a lot of AF dudes, like my boy Roland Virgil. He was AF, but he had Omerta tattooed on the back of his neck, because all the Omerta dudes had Omerta right on the back of their neck between their shoulder blades. Right, that's where they got it. And so I was like, "Hey, dog, why the fuck you got? Why you rocking that?" He's like, "Oh man, I'm kind of trying to make it a hybrid thing." And I was like,
What?
Yeah, right. And I was like,
Yeah.
You know, and at that point, that's kind of when I was like already kind of losing my whole fucking luster about the whole AF, because like here this is this young kid. About a year later, I'm in the hole, and I hear some talk about we might be going and having some beef with the Omerta dudes, right? And I'm like, for what? And because some guys were leaving, going to Omerta, you know, blah blah blah. I think Omerta was kind of becoming a little bit more popular, because at that point, a lot of AF dudes were, like, a lot of the original dudes were getting poked up and stabbed, right? And getting forced out. So that didn't make us look good. One, who wants to fucking join an organization where you're just going to end up getting forced out in 10 years? So we were already, the family was already struggling at that point. And, you know, and then around 2013, I had already dropped out at that point, but 2013, 2014 is when the AF and the Norteños went to war. So from 2014 to like 2017, it was head up on site anywhere you went, Norteños and AF. Well, that right there pretty much wiped out the AF as far as numbers. Because anytime you get certified as AF, they're sticking you in the hole. So, you know, there weren't a lot of guys on mainline anymore. And, you know, I think that's kind of when Omerta just kind of took over, man. And so last I heard, they were kind of running shit. I don't know if that's still true. Probably not. Maybe it is. I don't know. But
were they
they're a much more violent group of individuals.
So then I want you guys to watch this part. And like I said, I won't show the whole video, just a couple clips, and then this is crazy right here.
Question how they could have definitively arrived at this conclusion unless they were framing Kohberger. Based on the information we have, it's not off the table that the victims were shot either. Take this audio clip discovered by Bubbly Waters and Pavarotti. At 3:44 a.m., someone racks a firearm and then slams the trunk closed. A couple minutes later, they head towards the crime scene.
That's a gun rack. insane.
Also, remember what Christy Gonzalez said about the panicked call she received from her niece that morning, finding out her daughter was killed?
She's like, I think Keely's dead. And I said, well, what do you mean? And she
All
said,
of our stomachs just dropped.
She said there was somebody just called me and they live down there. And she said there was a party last night and Kaylee, somebody went in and shot the party up and Kaylee was shot. I was like, what? And I just threw my phone.
The obvious retort to this would be, but TCD, we've never learned anything about finding bullets. And that's correct, but you know what there was evidence of? Injuries that were unique to Kaylee, described by the coroner to Steve Gonzalez as, quote, big open gouges, end quote, and significantly more brutal than Madison's.
Their means of death don't match.
Maddie's
They don't.
and Kaylee's cause of death, it does not match based on the autopsy report.
They don't match.
We've heard all the rumors of organ removal to pay down drug debts. And considering the language used to describe such injuries, I'd say bullet removal doesn't necessarily sound too far-fetched. We also heard from the Gonsalves family that Kaylee was beaten in the face and head to the point where her nose was broken and her face left unrecognizable, raising the possibility that a handgun could have been used as a blunt weapon in the attack. All this to say that I highly doubt the intruders entered the house with just a knife. There were likely firearms involved. Whether they were used with a suppressor or not is up for consideration. I also want to bring up a contradiction pertaining to Xana's injuries. Shortly after Brian's arrest, one of the elusive, quote, sources close to the investigation, end quote, leaked information to the public that Xana, quote, repeatedly grabbed the attacker's knife, so much so that she sustained deep cuts to her fingers and that her fingers were nearly severed off, end quote. Just like all the information disclosed to the public in this way, this statement had a purpose pertaining to narrative control. However, there's a contradiction here as indicated by forensics expert Joseph Scott Morgan.
And I asked if any of the victims had been slashed. And she seemed to be very clear that these were all stab wounds. But these sources are saying that, you know, Ethan had been slashed, that his neck had been slashed, and that that was the original injury he received. I guess the same question for you. Can those two things still be true? Can a coroner consider a slash a stab?
Not only is the injury to the neck a slash, allegedly, according to this person, but these injuries that you're talking about on the hands, these are going to be incised wounds as well. Not necessarily slashes, but this is as a result of grabbing hold of the blade and pulling it through the hand. These are not stab wounds. I can tell you that definitively based upon my experience. So yeah, there probably are some stab wounds, but that information is, you need more clarity here.
Given these inconsistencies, I can suggest that maybe these weren't defensive wounds, but rather mutilation to send a message. The act of cutting off fingers in the context of cartel violence carries specific meanings, including punishment and warning, intimidation and psychological warfare, and symbolic messaging. Specifically, cutting off an index finger might signify punishment for informing authorities. All of these themes line directly up with what we've been talking about and are supported by the timeline and criminal procedural history of Xana's mom. So I can suggest that that information was put out there by law enforcement and disseminated by Ashley Banfield as a means of damage control.
Exactly.
Okay, so
now, and like I said, you guys can go watch that. That is by True Crime Design. Unbelievable work. Now, I want you guys to rewatch this and tell me if this makes more sense now. Let's say if Steve or somebody related to Steve had snitched and Kaylee was the debt that had to be paid, does I paid that bill make more sense in saying that he sent his daughter to college to get an education, she came back in a box so he can speak on it? I don't know how that shit works. Obviously, I'm not in any of that, but in my head, and I could be way off, my thought is, okay, the hit was done. That bill is paid. I can now talk about my daughter being killed. I'm not talking about necessarily the other shit. I'm talking about her and only her. That's now the light that this might make more sense in.
Leaders and say, hey, we might say something.
Of law enforcement, you support the investigation. But recently, I've been watching and talking with you, and you're getting frustrated. What does that frustration come from, sir?
They put certain people between you and the officers that are making things happen, and those people are like lawyers, and they don't want to say anything, and they don't have the guts to come up and be alpha and be like leaders and say, hey, we might say something that's wrong. We're going to take that hit. So the officers, they look me straight in their eyes. The lead detective looked me in his eyes. I have no doubt he's working as hard as he can, but somebody isn't communicating. There's nothing being released. It seems like they're trying to suppress the story. We want to put rewards out there. Like, don't do that. Yeah, I get it. Your town doesn't want to have reward posters posted all over when you come and you do your rush. You're not going to get a lot of students if they see those things. But this community is not going to heal until this guy's pulled off the streets. It ain't going to happen. Think it through. It's not going to happen. He has to be off the streets. We all are working for the same thing.
When was the last time y'all heard from the police?
Thursday, we looked at our phone records. We want to be accurate. We don't want to sell anyone out.
About 3 o'clock on Thursday.
And
did y'all get an
We don't want to sell anyone out.
update from the police about the investigation?
There was nothing. We have no updates for you.
There was no update. They needed me to sign a waiver form so that they could investigate something.
Some mail.
That was mail related. So we're working with them. We're not selling them out. We love our law support.
The FBI, everybody that's here. We just have no information as family, and it gets tough day after day after day. I mean, every day you just wake up and think today's the day. We're going to hear something, and you see these, oh, there's a break in the case, and it'll just be something stupid.
The sixth person on the lease that was never there. Stop playing games. This is serious. These are people's lives, and this is the future of this community. There's going to be 10,000, 15,000 kids that come into this community next year, or they don't. So be serious.
I had the opportunity to speak to some of my sources, and I've been told that there were differences in the way that the victims were killed. Some were more severe than the other. And this week we heard the target attack walk back and then reverse it back to it being a target attack. What can you tell us about the targeted attack?
They have told us that it was targeted, but they told us they can't tell who. We asked specifically, and they said, we'll try to get that information to you. And they got back to us a day or so later, and they said, we're sorry, we can't give you that information. But then a day later, we saw in the news that it was not targeted, or they think the whole house was targeted. But
I'll cut to the chase.
Yeah.
Their means of death don't match.
Maddie's
They don't.
and Kaylee's cause of death, it does not match based on the autopsy report.
They don't match.
Would indicate that one of them.
He doesn't have to
may
go
have
up
been
the
target.
steps. Let's stop playing games, guys. I need somebody to step up and be an alpha. Be somebody to be a leader. Don't make me do it. I don't want to do it. He doesn't have to go up the steps. Their points of damage don't match. I'm just gonna say it. It wasn't leaked to me. I earned that. I paid for that funeral. I paid for that. It's my right. You ain't taking that from me.
Calm down.
If you don't want to say nothing, that's your bet. But don't say I'm leaking anything. I paid that bill. Sent my daughter to college to get an education. She came back in the box, and I can speak on that.
I was also...
To me, I've always said that's a code. He's talking through the screen to somebody who's watching.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not Brian Koberger.
No. And you know what just dawned on me? His brother Nathan is in prison in Washington. And I don't know if anybody else is aware of this. In the repository in Washington, there is a past case with Christy, and I believe Steve is on that case. And you can go look up in the repository. They were trying to get some type of protection order against his brother Nathan. And this makes me think that now Nathan is in prison. He has access to where these guys are in prison, maybe allegedly part of that brotherhood that operates all the way down into Moscow. And if he had anything to do with this, then Steve would be specifically speaking about, we've not betrayed anyone, we've not told anyone. And that's just something that ran through my mind while watching that.
Yeah. And I'm gonna go to the tinfoil hat conspiracy of the day so that when I edit this, we can go right. I can just upload this part, and then we're gonna do a Q&A here session. But real quick, moving on. If you haven't seen this, this is also crazy about just the world that we live in. You look at this is Jeffrey Epstein. This is then Andrew Jackson. It's literally the exact same thing. You talk about they put it in your face, they laugh at us. Look at what we know. You guys, we're all in the club. You're not. Take your ball and go home. Scram, you little peasants, you dirty Americans. We don't need you. You're just another cog. They tell us what they're going to do. And I know that I just froze there for a second. I should be back.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, this is crazy if you haven't seen that. But
and you know something, Birdie, real quick. Kaylee was interested in true crime. She actually reported that she saw that missing woman, and then 3 weeks later, that missing woman ended up in a lake in her car. And I'm wondering if maybe Kaylee was obviously onto something that she picked up in that house.
Yep.
But it's right in our face, and we're all just, there's way too many people involved in this to pick it out.
Yeah. And like, so my whole point is, look, there's nothing that, and Phoenix and I've said this, or at least like I personally, like I'm not digging into people's records. I'm not pulling stuff. I don't have access to that. But what I can do is I can recognize patterns. Okay. Now, the thing that's bothersome to me personally is that while, yes, this might be a cover up to protect people, that's fine. Okay. There's a fine line between, hey, we are protecting the public for your own good and we can't tell you about it. I understand that there's going to be situations that are inevitable. You have to do that. There's violent people out there. There's powerful, violent people out there. There's people that have infiltrated law enforcement, the courts, politicians, companies. We all know that. But what gets me really upset is how people can't wrap their head around that this is possible. You know, I see a couple people in the chat that are like, there's no evidence of cartel involvement. There's no evidence. He admitted to this. It's like, okay. At this point, if you're still thinking that way, not just about this case, but in general, because something tells me that you probably think about everything in that manner, then there's no hope. It's just like, I don't know what to tell you. If you haven't woken up by now that what we get told as the public is not always the whole truth, and that there's something bigger going on in the background to accomplish something else that's bigger, I don't know what to do, because we're sitting here, we're showing you this. And if you want to say there's no evidence that there's cartel involvement, well, okay, there's no evidence that Brian Koberger was in the house. Bill Thompson stands up and says, we can't put him in the house. We can't say that he had any connection to the victims. We can't even say that he intended to go there and kill all of them. There was trace DNA that should have been forensically unavailable to be tested. There wasn't enough. And you look at some of the other DNA that's under Maddie's nails, and Brian's in the middle of the list. Ethan had the highest. Then there was another person above him. Then it went Brian, then two others underneath him. And so my question to people that are like, but he admitted it. Guys, they've done crazier shit than put the perfect loner criminology PhD in a position to take the media heat while they take down a giant drug and fraud network in that area. As we know, this is on the DOJ's website. Freaking Pam Bondi's talking about it on the White House lawn about, you have the Sinaloa cartel that went down in Eugene, Oregon. You have the JJB case that the same day Brian Koberger randomly out of the blue takes his plea deal. That case gets finished off. You go and watch that video, True Crime Design. If you watch it with an open mind, and I hate even saying that because people are like, oh, yeah, just a YouTube video. Like I said, I don't know what to say to convince you that this stuff's possible. But like I said, they've done crazier shit than put some loner criminology student into a small rural college town where there's a bunch of foot soldier Greek university students running drugs to them and laundering their money. As I've said, they've taken down 2 giant towers to get us into a war where they lied about weapons of mass destructions. And then you have our soldiers guarding poppy fields, and it leads to the biggest opioid epidemic in our country. You have the Gulf of Tonkin. That was a lie. It never happened. That ship was never attacked. Millions of people died in Vietnam because of that. There's so many things that are like, you have to wrap your head around that the technology exists to fake a multi-victim attack and make the world believe that it happened to accomplish a bigger agenda. Psychological operations are very real. They're very serious. It's not to say that nobody dies. People do die. Same thing with false flags. People die, unfortunately, in those. But it is set up, state-sponsored, accomplish the goal for the greater good. And it's disgusting. I think that it needs to stop. I think that people need to learn how to recognize it. People need to learn how to call it out. And then the worst part about it is we have people in this hive, myself, Phoenix, any of the guests that I have on, that are sitting here with a slide saying, look at this, explaining it. And the only thing that people can do is just parrot what the mainstream media can say, where they have how many ex-CIA people that are now talking heads. They have how much funding from defense contractors, how much funding from pharma companies, how much funding from politicians and NGO groups. It's all out there. If you can't put those together in your mind at this point, it's the simplest time ever to wake up. I give credit to people that are a little bit older, that they didn't have the internet. They couldn't communicate in real time. And they had something inside them that said, this doesn't make sense. This isn't right. Or they experienced something where they watched the truth happen. Then they turn on their TV at 5 or 6 o'clock at night after eating dinner, and they watch a completely different story come out. Though that's how you used to have to wake up. You either had to witness it and then witness the fake story, or you just had to have, some fortitude inside you that's like, dude, this is not right. This is not true. This can't be happening. And now, even with being able to communicate in real time, showing visuals, the Hive is one of many channels that people are talking in real time and figuring this out. And if you still can't wake up, I would highly suggest to stop drinking tap water, decalcify your pineal gland, stop mouth breathing, and start tuning in to channels like this and other alt news, because your entire worldview will be flipped upside down, and it's going to be for the better.
Well, freaking said, mic drop. Everything I share is public record, but anyone can go do searches and see the truth out there that the media, the mainstream media, is not sharing. It's on DEA, it's on DOJ, it's on local radio stations, news reports, because the local news will probably tell you the truth before the mainstream does. And it's a matter of discernment. Birdie is I'm a mouth breather. I just had to take a deep breath through my nose. But I'm just telling you, Birdie is spot on. If we continue to watch these psyops and believe them, more and more laws will be passed. You will lose freedoms overnight like we have in the past. And people don't see it coming. It's like this old adage that somebody told me a long time ago. Would you rather be at the accident, at the scene of an accident, knowing what happened, or are you the person that comes up and asks, oh my God, what happened? Which one would you rather be?
I'd rather see it, as morbid as that is.
Well, because you would know the truth.
Yep. And it's interesting because the hardest, I've said this in the past where it's like, we almost need to go back to, I'll tell a story that made me think of this idea. So Mrs. Birdie's family was in town, right? So my sister-in-law is in town, and this was right, when I started going on TikTok live and talking about quote unquote, conspiracy theories and all that shit. which are all unreleased documents, or that are all released documents now that used to be classified that have now been made public. And I love her sister, by the way, so I'm not making fun of her, but it kind of was interesting when she's like, so what's your craziest conspiracy? She's like, let's talk about the Denver airport. And I'm just like, oh my God. Okay. I guess we have to crawl before we walk, before we can jog, before we can sprint. And I'm like, there needs to be like a freaking TED Talk on Conspiracy 101. Denver airport, 9/11, JFK. These are very exposed conspiracies that are great for waking people up because they've had enough time to be truly dug into. We're in the heat of it right now with the Idaho 4 hive. We're navigating a fluid situation with different interviews, different stuff that comes out. That's why I gave such a big shout out to True Crime Design, because they were able to piece together, as I've stated, the court documents do not tell you the entire story. The court documents tell you about the case. They don't tell you what led to this case. Shit, they don't even give you a motive in this case. They don't have a murder weapon in this case. Everything's sealed. That is not normal in a homicide case, especially then when people give the police departments the excuse of they're not equipped to handle this. Okay, how are you not equipped to handle this? If you're going to say all of that Brian's cooked and that it's very obvious the case is too strong, why is this trial going on so long? Why are there national security references? Why is everything sealed? Why don't they have a motive? Why don't they have a murder weapon? Why doesn't he have to confess on where the murder weapon is, what he did with it? He got let off with a plea deal to get the death penalty off the table. And all he had to say was like 8 words. That's not normal. And then going back to the police department not being equipped for this. If you go off the narrative, this was a single intruder who hated women because they're beautiful, that ordered a knife off of Amazon, that went into the house at this time, and his car is seen on camera. He stabbed them all to death. There's DNA there. That is a standard homicide, chat. And you're going to tell me that 2 police departments with the biggest campuses in that area in a very wide radius. So you're going to tell me 2 college campuses, how many students, police departments can't investigate a homicide or a multi-victim homicide? That's not okay if that is the truth, but that's not the truth. Because any police department would be able to open and seal that case. And that takes me to my next point. If they had all this evidence on Brian Kohberger, as high profile of a case as it is, they would have had that, meaning the state, they would have had all that shit on display, loud and proud. And they didn't. We haven't seen it. The chain of custody on the DNA is sus. The parents' interviews, they're like doing this pretty much, whatever that help signal is. As this is not happening. This is not the truth. People need to know. The only way that this makes sense is that Brian Kohberger had to be the public-facing trial while an ongoing investigation or an ongoing trial had to be going on quietly in the background, not talked about in the press, because they needed to get everybody wrangled up in one swift motion. And we saw that happen. And that's all public. You can go look it up. I will never believe that Brian Kohberger went into that house and killed 4 people because they were beautiful and he couldn't go on a date with them. I will never believe that serial killers, yes, while they don't need a motive, was what we watched play out in this case. I will never believe that the trace DNA found on the sheath was actually from Brian. And if it was, I'm sure it's explainable. And now you might say, Birdie, you're in denial. No, I haven't told this story in a while, but I'm going to tell it again if there's people that are new to the hive. Ali Benevento, trial defense attorney, came on and told a story about a drunk homeless man who was passed out in front of a liquor store. The EMT was called. The EMT placed the pulse ox reader on his finger. 2 hours later, about 50 miles away, a rich IT businessman was found murdered in his home. That same EMT went to the scene. When she arrived, she was checking vitals. She put that same pulse ox on his finger. Do you know the DNA that was found under that IT businessman's fingernail? The drunk, passed out homeless guy that she used that pulse ox on 2 hours before. You know who was convicted of murder? The drunk, passed out homeless guy. You know who had to fight for his life because of trace DNA and how sensitive that is? Him. Now, he ended up getting out. But what I'm trying to say is that touch DNA and trace DNA is so fragile. You can even go into the science of it. It's like, but trust the science. It's the science. Well, do you understand the science? Everybody who says trust the science doesn't know the science. And I'm not saying that I'm some expert, but I do know that depending on the materials of that sheath, DNA in general can only last so long. If it was brass, if it was leather, there's different timelines. There's different time frames. Where's the body cam footage of the first pass through? Do you see the sheath? Or was that sheath placed? Did they know, holy shit, this is a hit? Hence all of the wild shit with the delayed 911 call. We have to get people in place. We can't tell you who was targeted, because if we tell you who was targeted, it's going to be obvious why they were targeted when you look at their family. And I'm sorry to go on this rant, but it's hard because I've looked at so many theories. I've looked at so many different lenses. I've listened to everybody in the hive. And when I hear somebody still say he admitted to it, I just can't. I can't listen to it. To each their own. I haven't ranted about it. Feels good to get off my chest. God help you. And let's hope that you're never in a situation like Brian Koberger is, because you wouldn't want people to look into it and seek the real justice for it.
Birdie's a little feisty today.
I think it's that 200. I think it's the 200 milligrams of caffeine in that Alani. I'm starting to smell colors at this point.
I just made a protein coffee, and I'll tell you, last night I was up digging deep, and thought, this is like what we're being told doesn't sound right, but what they are telling us is all these different stories, and it's just a cluster F at this time. It is, because now we all don't know what to believe, because there are a lot of players on here that are saying all this crap that we already have covered, and we're like, that doesn't make sense. Let's move to the next theory. Let's move to the next thing.
Yes, and with the people on the band field, what they're going to talk about, that true crime video, the true crime design video, when you watch it, is, it's not unrealistic to think that there's like quote unquote foot soldier or low level dealers that have been infiltrated by these networks.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Who knows if they were told to carry out the hit? That possibility has always been something we've talked about, because that timeline and the people around and people knowing about what had happened on campus prior to everything. I mean, this case is not as complex as we think it is, Hive.
Correct.
It's not. The mystery is designed. It was designed to be mysterious. It was designed to have you go down whatever angles to it. The other part about the true crime design video that I really, really am glad that they put in there was why Ethan was involved in it, and how that was a firstborn sacrifice. Now, she even admits, I'm probably going to lose people here, but then you listen, and then you look at, wow, Buddy the dog that was taken.
Yes.
Maddie or Kaylee. Yeah, Kaylee posted a picture with the dog 3 days before Buddy went missing. Buddy was found 3 miles away, and it was 3 weeks before the murders.
Correct.
Dude, and then you look at the sacrifice. Just go watch the video. Go watch the video, because I don't want to keep telling everybody about it.
Well, there's a little bit of everything in this case. You've talked about the ritual. I've talked about the hit, right? The cartel. The injuries sounded to me in the beginning just like the cartel. And when you start looking at the ritual, the sacrifice, the families that don't speak, the families that do speak, the families that don't speak probably have something deeper to deal with it. They have things they don't want people to discover about their families, their lives, X, Y, and Z. And now you're seeing these people come out. They've had miraculous turnarounds. Like, I was looking, Bertie, me, I'll go dig. And I was looking at how many people they have put into drug rehabs in that county. It's phenomenal that they try to convert these people to either CIs and put them in drug rehab. It's
You know,
crazy.
it is crazy. And Phoenix, I don't get on stream and do this for fun. Do I enjoy this? Yes. I do this because I can't stand how many people don't know what to look for. And it's not necessarily anybody in the hive. And if you are in the hive and you're here to learn, kudos to you, shout out to you. That's what makes the hive so awesome. Is like, we don't really kick anybody unless there's a threat made, or if you're trolling. We don't care if you disagree. We're just here to put the facts out. And it's to me, is it, kind of funny when it's like, oh, Birdie, you're the conspiracy guy in your friend group. It's like, yeah, but is it a conspiracy when I can just be like, well, have you looked into it? Do you know that there's documents that have been released? Do you know what the DNA testing showed? Do you know what the numbers are? Do you know the method that they used? Did you know that there's no chain of custody? Did you know there's no murder weapon? Did you know that there's no motive? Did you know that Brian Koberger is, connected to Ramsland, who took down the BTK? And then you look at the narrative and how clean it was built around. And they're like, huh? What? No. And I'm not making fun of my friends that say that, but it's like, not that I expect everybody to look into it or have an interest in it. However, that is the danger of sensationalized headlines, everybody.
It takes a special person to speak up, right? I think we've all had some injustice in our life to where we have to speak up about this. I know that I've had my rights trampled on and had to stand up for myself and win. Now, I'm not patting myself on the back, but everyone who's experienced some little bit of injustice, whether it be their family member, a friend, themselves, or seeing somebody like the underdog have a lot of injustice done to them, is when people come out, step out of their shell and say, we've got to do something about this. Now, I'm not saying we're trendsetters. There's a bunch of people that have come before us that are massive trendsetters. We are just tiny little people here giving our opinion and speaking the truth.
Yes. And I want to know too, somebody just said something about SG and the footage of the Ring camera. I want to know, is that footage missing now because you would hear a gunshot?
I want to know who leaked all this footage, because there was no official FOIAs. The police department has not shared anything. The FBI, everything is sealed. Are these people that are leaking the Linda Lane footage
All in
tired of the lies? Are they the one that see the corruption and it is telling the true story? Or has that video been manipulated in any way to tell a different story to have us believe it? Those are the questions I want answered. But, Bertie, for me, it's not about clicks, views, or likes. What's important is the information getting out there. I don't care if one person sees it and starts thinking, wow, what are we being told? Are we being shown different things? Or a million people watch it and think, oh, half of them say, oh, they're crazy. They're going to get in trouble. They're speaking out again. It's a freedom of speech, and we have the right to share publicly what we find.
And we're never going to, I shouldn't say never. I would like to think maybe one day, unless you're going to follow the classic path of, the talking points. If you're going to be an alt journalist, you pretty much just have to do it in a first person on your iPhone front facing camera and repeat exactly what the news says, just in a way that feels like more natural. Like, wow, look at them. They're on the ground and they're using their iPhone and they're just on a walk and they're like still saying this is an unprecedented attack, blah, blah. They're saying the same shit. And, that's why my hope for the Hive, when I think about what is the goal of it, it is what McSparky put in the song. It's like power to the collective, because we are living in a time right now where we have a finite time frame where, while the internet is censored, yes, and while AI algorithms are working against certain topics to shadow ban, we still can do this right now. We're still doing it right now. And we have the ability to spread this information far and wide. And the world is going to be a better place when real people are in positions of power all over the globe. People who are there to serve their community and have no hidden agendas. People who, they don't care about a payday. They care about a quality of life for everybody. They understand that the actions that they do will affect other people. And I'm not talking about the politicians that get up there and they make all these false promises and then they don't do jack shit. I want to know too, when the people are going to have all said, we've had enough. And I don't know how we're not there yet. We get stepped on and get our faces shoved in the mud. I'm not trying to go down this whole Epstein thing, but I want to talk about that Tucker Carlson guest the guest that Tucker had on that Sammy T showed, where it's like they're lying to us. They don't care that it's a lie anymore. They know it's a lie. They know that nobody's going to believe us. The lie is a signal to those that did it that, hey, look at how far we're going to go. Look at how stupid we're going to go. Look at the trust we're going to lose in the people to cover for you. We're not going to talk. We are bound by silence. We don't care if people know this is a lie. And it's bullshit and it's sad. And you start to think back, how did we get to this? How did we get to this spot? What do we do to get out? Well, we do things like we start the hive mind. I would encourage other people in the hive, start a channel, start a stream, speak your mind. Don't be worried about what other people are going to think of you because you have a different opinion.
Start the hard conversations with your
Yes.
family and your friends in social settings. That's the only way to spread the word, is absolutely just not on social media in these channels, but in person in your community.
That rant and going off on it, it felt good. And now my question is, what are we going to do about it, Hive? So my ask is speak your mind to your friends and family. Do it respectfully. Listen to their points. Don't make it personal if you disagree with them. Don't name call them. Have patience. Take a breath. Have receipts ready. And just let them do with it what they will. Because eventually they're going to start to wake up.
Drop the seed. It'll
Yep.
start. It'll become a plant. And Bertie, you are spot on with this slide right here. There was no murder, no motive, no murder weapon, no confession.
Exactly.
No confession. Know your rights. If you did not do something, know your rights.
Exactly. And that's another thing too. And thank you, Sky Blue. I agree. And there's plenty of them here in the hive this Saturday morning, or I guess Saturday afternoon. Knowing your rights is not something that should ever be up for debate. No matter what country you're from. Obviously, we don't just have people from America in this hive right now. Know your rights. You need to learn about the way that you're governed as a citizen in your country. Do not live under a rock. I'm not saying that in a way of trying to get up here and be the teacher and the tell-all, be-all. You need to do this right now. But what I'm saying is that if we don't know it, like, let's say this. Let's say you don't know it, but then you're never going to be in a situation where it would even matter if you know them. But maybe somebody you know is, and they don't know it. You then can tell them, hey, this is not right. And then it stops that chain reaction. Because a lot of times people only learn about their rights after they're in cuffs, in an interrogation room, gave a false confession, and are now sitting behind bars with legal fees coming out of their freaking mouth because they're stacked up so high. And there's limited options.
Absolutely. But it's not just about your constitutional rights. Know your state's constitution. Know your state's rights. Then look at, especially in the United States, other countries, they have certain laws and procedures. Know those too. But it's so important, like Bertie says, know them before instead of after. Stay silent. I know Bertie talks about that all the time. Don't say a word, because anything can be used against you. Even if it's the truth, they will find a way to use the truth against you.
Exactly. And it's not saying that you be disrespectful to law enforcement officers. I have the utmost respect for people in the service or cops. And the unfortunate reality is there is something that happens to people, and not all of them, but it does happen, where I'm going to use an extreme example here, but you look back at like the Nuremberg trials. Okay. the defense of I was just doing my job, that's out the window. I was just taking orders. That can't be a reason for it. And while there's maybe situations where, yes, that's a reasonable answer, but when it's against innocent civilians, when it's against your own people, and it's going to take somebody like, I don't know how to say it, because it's going to take somebody who understands there's not Democrat and Republican, at least in the US. While those two parties may exist, they are two wings on the same bird that is nosediving head first at light speed right into hell. There's never been an aisle. It is all, if a conspiracy is just that powerful people behind closed doors are going to make deals and shake hands away from the public to avoid scrutiny, then call me a conspiracy theorist. Because that's what we watch happen. It's give and take. How can you help me? I can help you. Let's not tell the public. Let's do this behind closed doors. Let's get the deal done. Nobody's going to know. Think of all the money you're going to make. Think about how happy your shareholders are going to be. Think about the book you'll be able to write. It bothers
Very
me.
true.
It bothers me that our own people then will fight against us, not even because they have a different opinion, but I feel genuinely that it's because they don't understand. It's not a matter of being right or wrong. I'm saying, can't we all agree that none of these people, very few of them, have the people's best interest in mind? Policy related, chemicals in the food related, chemicals in the water related, the quality of education related.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also convinced, man, I'm on a roll right now. That caffeine has me going. But I'm also convinced too that a lot of the big giant political problems that have been force-fed down our throats, that this is an impossible problem to fix, is a bullshit excuse. It's an impossible problem to fix when everyone trying to fix it's compromised. That's what it is.
Yeah, and let's just throw some money on top of that. Sherlock is right. He's right. Let's just give you some more money. I mean, if you think about this case and you look at the players, even Scott Green, the president of the University of Idaho, was brought in, no experience in managing college, academia. And then you look at his salary, 400 plus a year, and his background is finance, and he owns a private company. This crisis happens, and immediately he writes a book to sell to other colleges on how to deal with this crisis. I'm blown away. Was this really about these four individuals, or was it about how to make a quick, fast buck? Always follow the money.
And the other thing too is this. It's like the unwritten rule of understanding that people in power are never going to be held fully accountable. Because I don't know how I feel about being able to have the resources to hire. This has nothing against the attorneys, before I say this, because they're obviously very skilled at what they do. But you shouldn't be able to get away with a crime that's rock solid just because you have the resources to pay for it to go away. That's always bothered me. The big time show trial attorneys that can wow everybody, make it a trial by media, have the press release. There's a blank check waiting for them. Everybody, and then sometimes as a community or as a society, we think that it's like, wow, that's impressive. Look at they beat the case. Like, is that cool to beat a case? Mate, I mean, yes, maybe it is cool to beat the case, but if you were really guilty, I think it's just kind of effed up.
And for him, for Koberger to sit there in a court of law and plead guilty to yes and no answers, and the prosecution defending him, really threw me for a loop. Bertie. When you start looking at that, why is the prosecution defending him at every step of the way?
I don't know.
They have got to know he did not do this. So what is the cover up? What is the real story? And I think a lot of people are getting to that point where they know he's innocent. All this evidence is circumstantial. What is the real story? I hope a lot of people have gotten to that point by now to know that he is probably innocent.
Yeah. Yeah. And
a lot of people are now engaging. What do you mean he didn't do this? How could he possibly have done this? How? Tell me how and convince me otherwise.
exactly.
I mean, you don't have to have an associate's or a bachelor's or a master's or a PhD at common sense, but show me how he did this. If you can convince me that he did this, boy, you win.
Oh, well, I think that was a great Saturday stream. Hive, I will be live tomorrow evening at 7 Central. If it changes, check the Discord. I believe that Sammy T Mafia has her internet back, so she was texting me last night seeing if she could come on over the weekend. So there's a good chance that tomorrow night Sammy T will be on. But like I said, I would encourage everybody, go watch this video right here by True Crime Design. I hope you have a great Saturday, safe Saturday night, and I will be back in the Hive with you all tomorrow evening, 7 Central. Cheers, everybody.
Bye, Bertie.
See ya.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life.